for 6 months. So then, if you're watching this, you're not, talking to a tourist. I lived in Suriname. I retired, and here I am in Suriname after 6 months, and these problems still haven't been solved. But I'll talk about some of the good first before I even get into the problems. But if you're watching the live replay, welcome to the live replay. We were live, so you get to watch the replay. Cool? Join us every single weekday. We're live until my book launch in March. Cool, cool. So, staying in Suriname for 6 months, one of the things I loved about Suriname is that one, the people are very friendly. Two, it's amazing food. So you may not know this. Suriname is in the Caribbean. It's next to Venezuela, next to Guyana, next to French Guyana. It's right there. It's just above Brazil. So then a part of Suriname is actually the Amazon rainforest, which means that you can actually access the rainforest that's also in Brazil through Suriname, which is fantastic. You may not know this, but 93% of Suriname, the landmass, is the Amazon rainforest, which is pretty cool. So it's a lot of forest, which is great, which means it's one of the most beautiful countries that you'll ever go to. So then if you are thinking about visiting Suriname, I recommend it, right? And I'll tell you, because it's not necessarily a Caribbean country in terms of one of the islands, their descendants are quite different. Now, when you go to Suriname, what you'll realize is that black people are maybe 40, 50% of the demographic there. But then the other 50, right, is a mix of Indians, Chinese, white people, and everybody else. Which means there's actually quite a large Indian presence there, which means that curries and roti, regular part of the cuisine and lifestyle inside Suriname. So then when you get to Suriname, some of the best roti that you'll ever get on this side of the planet, right? Outside of India, Suriname, they have best, the best roti that you'll ever have. That's one thing I really love. I had roti maybe like every other day. You don't want to have too much curry. Not so good for your stomach. But separate from that, man, I'm telling you, it was just fantastic food. So that's the first thing. Two things I loved: beautiful place, beautiful people, and the food was amazing. So if you want roti, go there. Curry, amazing, cool. But on the other side, I lived in Suriname for 6 months. I saw some stuff. This is my protein shake. I'm going to the gym after this. Here's one of the first things I saw. I got there and it was raining. Now, the main airport in Paramaribo is 2 hours away from the main city. I didn't know that. Usually an airport is maybe 30 minutes. And it's not like there's only one main city in the entire Suriname, right? Which is Paramaribo. It's the capital. That's where the towns are. That's where the banks are. That's where most things are, right? If you're a tourist, you're probably going to Paramaribo because remember, 93% of the country is forest. So then everybody's going to Paramaribo. So then usually an airport is half an hour, it's close by. Look at JFK. JFK is just half an hour away from Manhattan. Usually it's within the city. The airport is close to the city or within the city. Half an hour, it's okay, right? 2 hours, and it was raining when I landed. Mad. So then now, I just took a flight for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. And then now I'm sitting in the cab, for another 2 hours to get to anywhere that looks like civilization. That's mad to me, right? 2 hours. I mean, what you realize very quickly is that when it rains in Suriname, everywhere floods. So then now I'm in the car 2 hours, but it's also flooding, right? So then now we're in the car, we can't go anywhere, traffic is stuck, roads are blocked, and this wasn't a lot of rain. You see, in other countries, when it rains, which is a problem that's in Suriname, in other countries, when it rains, there's drain systems. The water runs off, right? So if it rains for 10 minutes, that's not going to really be a problem. If it rains for 2 weeks, most places in the world, that's a problem. But 10 minutes in Suriname means that roads are blocked. 10 minutes. The roads in Suriname cannot handle 10 minutes of rain. That is crazy, right? So then it's raining for 10 minutes. Now, remember, it was raining the entire time. So it's raining for like maybe 2 hours, right? All of the roads are flooded. So then now, the trucks have to be going over and we're on the sidewalk trying to go down roads and, yo, it's crazy. This is my first impression of this country. So then I'm thinking, okay, this is what they describe as a city with poor planning. This is what they describe as a developing nation because they don't have it together yet. That was my first problem with Suriname, which is that the roads suck, right? The roads suck. That's the first thing. But then I committed to staying at least 3 months. I ended up staying for 6 months. I'll tell you why I stayed for 6 months in a little bit. Somebody's commenting. You are the best, bro. I appreciate you very much tuning in. You're a top 3 fan. Why are you not a top number 1? Fix that, bro. All right, so that was Suriname, right? So then I get there, first day, now we're going in to the city. The second problem I had with Suriname is in the economy in Suriname, right? There are students that come from Netherlands often. No, students aren't a problem, and I don't have a problem with Netherlands. I've never been there, so I can't have a problem with Netherlands. But in Suriname, here's what happens. When you go to Suriname, the average income of a Surinamese, you may not know this, is $5,000 to $6,000 for the entire year. The average income of someone from the Netherlands is $50,000 per year, 10 times as much. They're earning 10 times as much, but they're coming as students. Remember, so that they're coming, 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-olds coming, and they have significantly more money than the teachers or everybody else pretty much in Suriname, like 90% of the population. They have more money than most of them, which means it's a weird dynamic because these students are pretty much responsible for the economy while they're there, but they're also students, which means it's very weird. I'll tell you one example. Okay then, bro. Zidane, I appreciate you very much. So think about this. You're a student, you're coming halfway across the world, and you want to go on a tour. So they have these things called tour guides in Suriname. Now, because you're a tour guide, you're saying, okay, cool, I'll take these students out to the Amazon and I'll show them the jungle. Cool. But then, because they're also 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, they're the age of people that you would date. Now think about this. This is a very weird dynamic. I'm telling you it's weird, but I want you to sit with this. If you are taking someone that's, you're a 30-year-old male and you're taking a 24-year-old student on a tour, right? I remember, so this is a weekend or a week, you're gone in the Amazon jungle and you're responsible for this person. And they also have more money than you. And you also start dating. Okay. Now, if that were the reverse, if a man earned 10 times as much as a woman, and the woman was 22, and the man was 30, what would we call that? A problem. That's predatory. But that's not what happens in Suriname. See, understand that most of the students that come from Netherlands to Suriname are female. Why? Because they're coming for a medical program. Now, I don't know why many women are in the medical program, but that's what happens. So then there's a lot of women that come, like 8 to 1, right? So then you have a bunch of women who are 21, 22, 23, 24 with more money than the men who are their tour guides and their teachers and their professors. Is that not predatory? I'll leave that for you to answer because I think it is, right? Yo, bro. I love you too, bro. Hey, bro. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. I think that's predatory. All these women coming up with all this money, I feel that they're taking advantage of them. Now, I might be all alone in this, but I don't know. What is that, right? I think that's predatory. Okay, so then that's the first thing I noticed. The last thing I'll tell you before, so the last thing, I have several, right? But I'll give you another one. The Chinese population in Suriname is about 1 to 2%. 1 to 2% of the entire Surinamese population. 1 to 2%. Now, imagine that in any other country, if 1 to 2% of the population had, just listen to the entire story, if 1 to 2% had maybe 60% of the wealth, what would you call that? 1 to 2% of the population has 60% of the wealth. They own 60% of everything in the country. what would you call that? That's probably colonization. That's probably imperialism. That's probably someone taking over another country. They want, it's not like they're 15 or 30%. They're 1 to 2% of the entire country. Yet they own like half the stuff. So it gets to the point where you're thinking, okay, they have a lot of power, economic power. But then I discovered in Suriname that they celebrate Chinese New Year. 1 to 2% of the population got the entire government of Suriname to celebrate Chinese New Year, which means that they close banks, they close the schools, they close everything for 1 to 2% of the population. Think about it. There is no other country in the world, no other country, that would allow 1 to 2% of the population to shut down the entire economy for what? That makes no sense. Think about this. Think about how long it took for black people to get Juneteenth as a holiday. And black people are way more than 1% of America. You see what I'm saying? It's so then the reason why they're able to do that in Suriname is because they have so much power. But that's a problem. Right? Because 1 to 2% of a population should not have that much power over any country. America doesn't allow that. You can't be 1 to 2% of the population and just get a holiday. It doesn't work that way. You have to be a pretty large majority. So that should show you how much power they have. Does that make sense? Yeah, I see that as a problem. My dad is here. Okay, so let me see who's here. That's crazy. Brainwash like 5 years. Yeah, exactly. So you understand my point, right? So with all this said, these are some problems I have with Suriname. But as I said, Suriname is a great country. So I don't want you to, pile me on in the comments and be like, oh no, you just don't understand. It's a great country, right? So, with all that said, I think you should visit Suriname, but understand that these are some of the problems. And I've talked about some of these things before, and I have way more. But those are just the first things I want to show you because that was my experience in 6 months. Anyway, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you for leaving the love on the comments. I appreciate you guys. We're almost at 5,000 subs, so I'm very excited. All right, peace out, guys. I'm going to the gym. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subbed. All right, peace out, guys. And bye, Zidane. I meant to mention you. All right, peace.